You're listening to the Shit You Can't Make Up podcast, a conversation with friends, hosted by Marisol Sanchez.
Hey, hope everyone is doing well. I wanted to do a podcast about yoga. So if yoga is a subject you're not remotely interested in, this would be a good one to opt out of. And I'm a little afraid that I'm going to go inside baseball on the yoga a little bit. But I did want to just talk about it because, it crosses over a lot of where I'm at in my life right now. So I thought I should tell you a story about that. So what led me to yoga? A few years before I got divorced, I had my 3 kids. I was not in the best shape, in any shape, way, or form, physically, emotionally, spiritually. I was not in a great place. And I started exercising with some friends, and I really think that was the beginning of. Those were the first steps into me trying to live a healthier life. We started with half marathons, and excuse me, and we did a few sprint triathlons and other triathlons. Excuse me. And in training for one of those, we'd have these fun runs with a group of my friends, and those were just some great years because, we were able to process a lot and talk a lot on those runs. Anyway, on one of those runs, we stumbled upon a yoga class at the local country club. And, I started taking yoga. And that led me to a studio in town, where I spent, a year, 2 years, I don't even know. Seems like a long time. At the studio, loved all the teachers there. Took a teacher training there because at one point, I'm not sure, it may have been separated at the time, but I still think that was a point in my life where I was trying to save the marriage. Not save them. That sounds awful. I was hoping the marriage could be saved. Is a better way to frame that. And my hopes at that point was that our marriage could be saved. And so I did this teacher training with the studio. Wonderful summer. It was, I think, 2 weeks. Got to know a few people from there. I have people, I think, that are friends from that experience. So that's where I'm like, oh, I'm definitely into yoga. And for just a moment in time, I thought maybe I could make a career of that. But it wasn't me. I wasn't a teacher. I didn't like to speak in front of people. And I didn't want to talk. It's just, it wasn't for me. I have a special place in my heart for that studio because that's where that's where I grieved, I think. That's how I would define those years. It was like a very long grieving process about my marriage. And I know that some people saw that play out and on my mat. And I met some cool people through that experience. So that's what started me into yoga. Post the divorce, but still our divorce isn't settled. might be off on my timeline here, but I was starting a relationship. So anyway, I just celebrated 2 years. So it was 2 years ago. I had this feeling that I wanted something more, is all I could define it. I was looking for something, and I didn't know what it was. And there was this gentleman in town, older gentleman, who teaches this type of yoga that's called Ashtanga. I had never taken a class with him. I was always intimidated by the people that took his class at the studio that I used to practice in. And they all seemed really intense. And I remember they would just sit there and listen to him sometimes at the end of class. It was very intimidating. And also I had a very negative imprint about Ashtanga that I got from people who had practiced it at some point and then didn't. So I just never, I remember during the teacher training, they gave us like a tidbit of what Ashtanga is. And I remember distinctly this one asana called, Chaturanga, no, not Chaturanga, what is it called? Fuck it, Chakrasana. I remember thinking there's no fucking way, and now it's part of my practice, and it's one of my favorite asanas, and I love it. And that was more of a mental one than a physical one, and I love those. Anyway, this is where it's going to go inside baseball a little bit, so I'm going to try to break it down in layman's terms, because now that I practice Ashtanga, I feel like I always have to explain them, because it's I've used different ways to describe it. Sometimes I'll say, well, it's a little more Eastern based, or I'll say, what else will I say? It's more spiritual based, and that I just started saying probably within the last 6 months, because up until probably about a year ago, just about a year ago, I started turning this corner where I was this incredible atheist. Like, I can't even describe the enthusiasm that I had for my atheism for so many years. There was just, I identified so much with it. It was something that I defined myself by. So this podcast is going to kind of cross over between yoga, spirituality, my past, my present, my future. So I'm going to bounce, but you're going to have to go with me to, hear the whole story. So let's backtrack. Let's go backwards a little bit. And let me talk to you about how I got to atheism before I tell you how I got into, I guess, my current spiritual state. But I was born Catholic. I was baptized Catholic. And for about 7, 9, I went to a few years on and off between public school. Some years I went to Catholic school. I would call those the good years. I said that in quotes, but anyway, I was raised Catholic, and I didn't really have any strong, when you're raised, when you're born into something, you don't really have a choice. So, and I didn't think to question it till about, no, what's the one after confirmation? Around confirmation time, I was like, I don't think I got confirmed. I think I was in like the prep before it, and I was already starting to get some funny looks from the nuns, just based on the questions I asked. I was a pretty good kid and a good student. I didn't like to get in trouble. But there was always a part of me that just, and some teachers loved that about me, I would say. I was a critical thinker at a young age. Anyway, a few years, I don't know, about a year after maybe, I might be off on that. After my brother died when I was 9, I would say we stopped being Catholic. And again, my family didn't have like family meetings. We didn't sit down and discuss things. I was never sat down and told, I'm having a moment of questioning my faith and I feel I need to go test some things out. It was nothing like that. It was just, hey, we're going here now. Nope, don't like it here, we're going here. And I, more so than my brothers, got dragged along. I was the youngest only girl, so I had no choice. I mean, my older brother was involved, but he was always, I think, I don't know. I would have to have him on the podcast to discuss his personal beliefs, but he's, I would say, more religious. My other brother is more Catholic. He was, I look at him now and sometimes I laugh because, and I don't know if I say this to him. I know he listens to the podcast, but he's so Catholic. That's like the dialogue in my head. And I don't say that in a bad way. I've said this to close friends of mine that I feel comfortable saying that carry that guilt. There's just guilt, just constant guilt. And if you think back to if you're just a young boy and you're growing up hearing this specific mantra over and over and over again, and there's a lot of everything you do is kind of wrong. But anyway, I laugh because he literally will feel guilty about giving, the sweetest things. Like he just, guilt. I'm probably gonna have to edit this out because he probably doesn't want me to say this. But anyway, it was Catholicism. Then it was this is where I lost my faith. It wasn't Catholicism. I actually am going to circle back to Catholicism when I'm talking about my yoga in the future. But where I lost my faith was at subsequent Catholicism was all the other denominations that I was taken to. Because this was I would name these the fundamentalist years. My mom's, journey into spirituality. And which is I believe this is my assumption, 180 is half of 360, right? Shit, I suck at math. But it's a complete turnabout from what I suspect is my mom's authentic self, which is this, I don't know, just this attractive, sexy woman who, but I didn't know her in that phase. I'm going based on pictures and just piecing, I think, her very interesting story together. But I knew her as she was my mom mostly during the fundamentalist years. And at that time, so throughout all these, and I'm talking every denomination, I saw everything. Everything from the tarot cards down to Pentecostal to Southern Baptist to the Southern Baptist that drink, the Southern Baptist that don't. I mean, the whole gambit. And that's when I lost my faith. That's when I was like, just the things that were said from the pulpit during those years, and not necessarily every weekend, but enough that I was like, what? It just felt like a level of hypocrisy that I just couldn't swallow. That sounds really judgmental. I'm like, I need to give more backstory story to it. But I guess it's a combination of, okay, this is what my mom believed, but this is how I was treated at home. I just, the fact that I wore red lipstick or thought about sex did not make me a bad person, even though that's the message that I was repeatedly getting. Anyway, or about homosexuality, or just other things that and this might be more my Hispanic heritage than these religious, though, I don't know, I mean, that probably could be said true, but the subserviency of the woman role, which I never made sense to me. Like, I never as a child, I looked at my mom. She's the one that carried the heavy lifting. She's the one that dealt with everything. Well or not well, she was the woman. And my aunts, I don't remember, like, I'm not, no offense to the men in my family, but the men in my family, I'm not like, oh, wow, so impressed. But the women, fuck yeah. Yeah, they were the ones that carried the kids and worked and, got to this country. And, I don't know. I've always thought women, it just never felt authentic to me that any religion or any society or anything make the woman feel less than the man. Though I never verbalized that, I don't think. I don't remember having these discussions with my friends or anyone, but it's something that I could kind of articulate now. Anyway, I'm going all over the place. So the past. So that gives you the history. So at some point, I remember when I was just at that obnoxious teenage age, when I have a discussion about religion with people, which is very rare, and they're usually lovely and extremely intense. I knew, I don't recall anymore, but I had to go for many years to Bible class and study. And there's just so much that I was just that obnoxious teenager that I questioned, and I didn't get the answers that I needed at that time to believe in it. And so when you combine that with, this is what you're telling me, this is the life that we're supposed to lead, and I don't know, it did not make sense to me. Anyway, that was the past. So I was for a very long time, an atheist. And I was an atheist before people were comfortable with saying that they were an atheist. Like, I think that's pretty, at least it feels like to me. I remember I was at a book club within the last 10 years, and we were discussing some book, I don't remember what, and I said something, and a dear friend of mine turned to me and said, wait, you're not Christian. And, I was like, well, what, what do you mean? That I believe that Jesus was the Son of God and born of a virgin? Because no, I am not, I don't. And this look of like horror, and then, oh, wait, like, she walked her way through, like, she's not a bad, like, that I'm not a bad person, or she, it didn't change her opinion of me. But it was not there's just not something, but I don't know. I'm sure if you're listening to this in San Francisco or New York, you're like, what the fuck? But in Wilmington, North Carolina, you do not say you don't believe in Jesus without expecting a raised eyebrow. But that was a few years ago, and then I was, I don't know. I just wasn't really thinking about God in any way. Had no, no spirituality at all. But it was still, I will say, I was still, and I still think this about everyone and anyone, that, I was a good person just because I didn't believe or go to church. That was never a big problem for me. Like, I never was ashamed of that. Just, made election cycles annoying. And, it is what it is. So my present. So I am an atheist. Ironically, have raised two, I believe in science atheists who, now that they are at that obnoxious age of teenage years, I find myself on the other side, arguing that I believe that I'm part of something greater, that I felt grace, that I have felt, peace, and know the difference of feeling that connection with people and being alive and being present versus not, versus just existing and functioning and getting through your day with the excellent Facebook profile. But so okay, atheist. So I also, as I got dragged from Catholicism to fundamentalist, and kind of leapt into atheism. I didn't even go agnostic. I like straight. I remember actually before, I think my twins were born, having a conversation with someone who was business partners with my ex-husband. I think we were discussing that, and she, if I remember correctly, said something like, "Well, why don't you say agnostic? That just sounds nicer." So maybe I flirted with being agnostic for a while. Leapt into atheism. Then just existed for many, many years. Then started to, first it was just about losing weight, but it started on this path to getting healthy. And then I didn't have high expectations. I wasn't looking for, health in all aspects of my life. I was just trying to lose a few pounds. From that, I had this extremely traumatic thing occur, which was my divorce. And really needing more. Simultaneously, after my divorce, get into a relationship, or the next long-term relationship I have is again with this flaming atheist. He was just so I couldn't even discuss, as I started having these thoughts about how I was feeling spiritually, I didn't feel comfortable. And he and I were actually very close, and to not be able to share this with him, because I kind of felt it just, didn't feel comfortable discussing it. And my feet were kind of being dragged into this, like, and it wasn't my teacher, and it is my practice. It is my practice that kind of led me to it. I hinted or foreshadowed that about my yoga reminding me a lot about Catholicism, and this is something I've kind of said a few times, but what I didn't realize what I missed about those fundamental years, I missed Catholicism. Now, mind you, I had some really, I don't agree with the church's policies on many, many things, specifically, how they deal with pedophiles, basically. But I missed the rituals. When a friend's child was having communion, first communion, I just walking in that church or a wedding, something about those rituals I missed in present day yoga. In Ashtanga specifically, when we do an opening prayer and a closing prayer, there's a very ritualistic feeling to the practice. It's a set sequence. Let me tell you a little bit of Ashtanga. It's a set sequence. It takes about an hour and a half. It's not only that you're doing the same postures, but each posture has a specific breath count, a specific visual focal point. And it's truly a moving meditation. When I watch other people practice, it seems very reminiscent to like just this rhythmic practice. Excuse me. It does have a reputation for being hardcore, and it's by no means physically easy, but it's not mentally easy. I think the discipline it takes to show up on the mat is probably, for me, the best thing it's given me, because I never thought of myself as a disciplined person. But I've come to realize that I can be, and that when I do have discipline about things, life's just a little bit better. Anyway, about a year. So when I showed up at the Shala, or actually it was at the Y when I first met Larry, and then went to his Shala, got permission to go to his Shala. The thing about Ashtanga is it's not like a class. It's not like a $20 drop-in class at a studio. I remember cursing like in the last year. I curse a lot, but cursing at the Shala and like having that moment like I did when I was a young girl in church, like, oh, like, no, this is a sacred place, and so Ashtanga reminds me a lot of Catholicism. One of the things that I love about Catholicism, and I came back to thinking, like the mala beads for meditation, it reminds me of a rosary, and there is something soothing about that. There is something soothing about moving those beads within your finger. There's something soothing about saying endless numbers of Our Fathers and Hail Marys. To me, it's like, oh my God, this is meditation. So that was, it was a cool coming back home, having that realization. I think that was the first piece of me walking through that, oh, I might not be this, atheist that I've claimed to be so strongly for so many years. And then it was, again, my practice led me to other, besides the hate and besides the homophobia and besides the sexual, shame, there are some good messages in religion, and I felt like the ones I just mentioned is all I could hear. The good ones didn't seem to be in practice in my life as growing up. So, but there are good messages, forgiveness, kindness, turn the other cheek, and studying yoga. And not just the asana, not my Ashtanga practice, but, starting to learn a little bit about it. And I don't by any means want to sound like an expert, because I'm not. I'm a layman at this. I'm studying this. I do not recommend this for anyone else. This is what worked for me. But that's where I'm at. I'm at this place now where I'm like, I have felt that. I have felt that I'm part of something bigger. I can walk out and appreciate how everything is connected to everything, and I can practice I can practice forgiveness a lot. I can practice kindness. I can be angry and realize that I'm angry. I can realize, when I make a decision based on not all the time. Like it's a practice, and the thing about practicing is it's just you have to always practice. But the more you practice, the better you get at it. But everything is a practice, and I fall on all counts all the time. But the basic stuff is the same. It's all the same from all the different religions. Be kind. Be honest. Forgive. Practice restraint in all things that are excess. I think why I'm attracted more to Eastern or to is because they're the shame component that I feel you can find in Western religions isn't there. I don't, from what I've been studying, I'm not given shame. I felt in the others that I was. Though I didn't, these are all connections I've made now in my life. This isn't like I was at 13, 14 going, oh, that's shame. I had to consume Brene Brown study her stuff for a while to oh, okay. Oh, wow. I'm draped in shame. I'm covered in shame. I need to let go of my shame. And when I say all this stuff, I just want to pinpoint, I know this could be a hot topic, and if you've listened this far, you're probably, asleep. But I don't mean to offend anyone. I know people of every, I don't know if every, that might be an exaggeration, but most denominations, most of my friends are, anyway, all different types. Love, and I'm not trying to sound judgmental. This is my personal thoughts and my personal. It's not really an opinion. It's just my journey through it. So present day, I have this awesome practice, which ironically I'm doing this podcast when I haven't had it for a week because I've been injured. And I want to just clarify, because if you do practice yoga and you do hear that Ashtanga, there's a lot of injury. This was not Ashtanga that injured me. This was me. This is my ego, me not listening to my body. And I, so I haven't had it, and it's been, well, it's been fine because I have other tools in my toolbox. But tomorrow, hopefully, I'll be back on the mat, and I'll be good either way. Anyway, I truly hope I didn't offend anyone. Thank you again for listening. It's Marisol's podcast on iTunes. I hate to ask for likes and stuff like that, but I think that's what you're supposed to do. I think in this new, from what I've been able to piece together, you're not looking for, because there's so many podcasts, you're not looking for everyone to listen to your podcast. You're looking for the people that will. So if you are one of those people, feel free to comment or whatnot. What else? That's all I got going on. I have a big week coming up, and a lot of my family is coming into town, and I know the next podcast is going to be, if this podcast is about me coming back to God and spirituality, which I don't know if I've, I'm going to India in October, and I'm pretty sure I'll probably have another podcast at that point being more specific about, present day, what I feel. But it's still all very new. I still, even saying the word spiritual, especially now because everything is spiritual, everyone's being mindful and everyone's eat, pray, love, and who, again, with Brene Brown, love her. I can't remember, something Gilbert. I'm so bad with names. But she has a new book coming out about creativity. I should look her up. But anyway, the author of Eat, Pray, Love, I lost my train of thought, which probably means I should end it. See, I could talk to you guys all night. Thank you for listening. Feel like there's something I'm supposed to tell you, but no. Big family coming, so I'm sure I'm going to do a podcast about that, about coming back to my family, because if I left God, I left my family too. 2 days after high school graduation. All right, I will talk to you later. Bye.